Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Comic Book Club. This week, the readings were Black Panther, Hunted and Caged, which is issue 6 and 7 of the 1998 series, Heroes for Hire, Heroes and Villains, which is the first 4 issues of the 1997 run, and then Daredevil Parts of a Whole, which was issues 9 through 15 of the 1998 series. So I'm going to start with Heroes for Hire, which is the first comic on this reading order that I have not read previously. And it's also the only comic on this reading order that takes place prior to the 1998 Marvel Knights initiative. So Marvel Knights was not a company-wide rebranding, not anything in like the same sense as post Crisis on Infinite Earths for DC, or All New, All Different in like 2011 for Marvel. But basically, there was a distinct era pre-Marvel Knights and post-Marvel Knights. So Heroes for Hire follows Iron Fist, Danny Rand, now working with Oracle Inc., which is Namor's company, basically, on the surface world. And he is wanting to get a group of heroes together to fill the void after Onslaught. So after Onslaught happens, the Avengers are missing, the Fantastic Four are missing, and Danny realizes that this is the perfect opportunity for him to create this new team. And the first 4 issues are kind of just the introduction to the team. Originally, it is Iron Fist, Hercules, a new White Tiger, not Hector Ayala from Spider-Man. White Tiger, a new character. And they have Hulk for a couple pages in the first issue, and then Hercules leaves, and then they pick up Luke Cage, Power Man. And it's good. I mean, it's not anything to write home about. The art isn't anything special. It is typical 90s. The art is by Pasquale Ferry and Jamie Mendoza. And their art is just typical 90s. It's not anything phenomenal. It's not ugly. It is serviceable. It is good. And then the story, the first issue is co-plotted between Roger Stern and John Ostrander, and the subsequent issues all the way to the end, to issue 19, when it was, I don't know if I would say canceled, but it was when it was done, is all John Ostrander. So, like I said, in general, nothing crazy. Had some good introductions with the UFOs, or the UFOs, however you want to pronounce it. It was a typical team book. There was instances where the team had a plan, and then Hercules threw a wrench in the plan because there needs to be tension in a team book. There was typical hero misunderstandings between Iron Fist and White Tiger, where they fought for a little bit. I'm very intrigued to see where this plot thread of Luke Cage possibly betraying the team goes. But all in all, first 4 issues of Heroes for Hire, it was good. It was passable. It was serviceable. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Typical 90s Marvel Comics. I give it a C. And then the second story that I would like to talk about is the Black Panther Hunted and Caged. So that is issues 6 and 7. Still written by Christopher Priest. But this is, again, Black Panther cannot keep a consistent artist. They had Vince Evans do a fill-in for issue 5, which was the finale of last week's story arc, and now we have a new artist. We have Joe Jusko and Avalon Studios credited in issue 6, and then issue 7, it's Joe Jusko with Jimmy Palmiotti, Vince Evans returns, and then you have Drew and Matt Yaki. So it's weird. They can't keep a consistent artist. Christopher Priest is great. I love his writing. It has the same tropes that the last week's issue did, where the story is non-linear, it's non sequitur. It's a little hard to follow. In general, I think Jusko's art is better than Texeira. But these issues felt like a fill-in issue. So, like I discussed last week, Christopher Priest was reintroducing the idea of Black Panther, and he was creating this Black Panther for the 90s. And at the end of The Client, we leave T'Challa in this weird middle ground between he's in the U.S. and he came here to deal with the Tomorrow Fund. We don't really get a resolution with the Tomorrow Fund after the end of The Client. And now Wakanda is in upheaval, and this person named Akebi is trying to basically usurp T'Challa and instate himself on the throne. And he's got a tenuous deal using Ramonda, which is T'Challa's stepmother, basically saying that if T'Challa stays where he's at, if he stays in the U.S., then Ramonda stays safe, and Akebi can do what he wants in Wakanda. So we pick up on that frame with Hunted and Caged, and we don't really see that plot thread go anywhere. We don't talk about the Tomorrow Fund. We don't really have any more developments in Wakanda. It's basically the story revolves around Kraven the Hunter, and he is trying to hunt T'Challa and basically like learn from him, learn what it means to be the Black Panther, and it's kind of weird, but Kraven is weird, so I think it works. It continues this theme of Marvel Knights trying to, I hesitate to call it villain sharing, but it's kind of villain sharing. In Guardian Devil, you had Mysterio, which is traditionally a Spider-Man villain. You had Mephisto show up, which is kind of an upper echelon of Marvel villain. In The Client, you have Mephisto show up. And now you have Kraven, who is a Spider-Man villain. It's interesting. I'm enjoying this idea that Marvel Knights is just a microcosm for these characters to live, and they kind of interact with each other. You have appearances of Black Widow in Daredevil, and you have appearances of Mephisto in both. You have Doctor Strange show up in Daredevil. So it's very cool. Like I said, I like Kraven. I've never read Kraven's Last Hunt. The only other thing I've read with Kraven in it is the Black Panther Man Without Fear, issue 513, which we'll get to later. But I think that Hunted and Caged is a symptom of the problem with this Black Panther run so far. Priest obviously has a long game in the Tomorrow Fund scandal, and you could tell that Priest wanted to pursue that and move the plot line forward, and I don't know if he felt hamstrung by the lack of a consistent artist, and the fact that really the whole story was him, or if maybe this is what he wanted the whole time, was to have a little bit of a meandering way to get through to the Tomorrow Fund. But I will say Hunted and Caged, art is better than Texeira, but the story is fairly lackluster. Like I said, it can basically be boiled down to Kraven shows up and tries to take Black Panther. There's some cool implications for next week's story, which I'll talk about more in the article, and I'll talk about it more next week in that review. But as it stands, it is a low B. I don't have B- and B+ built into the tier list, but this is definitely lower than The Client, but still above Heroes and Villains, the previous one with Heroes for Hire. And then the final story is Daredevil Parts of a Whole, which is issues 9 through 15 of the 1998 Daredevil series. So this is a new writer. It is David Mack. The art is still by Quesada and Palmiotti in issues 9 through 11 and 13 through 15. Issue 12 is a bit of a weird one, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But David Mack comes from independent comics. He had, prior to this, he'd been working on his own publication called Kabuki, and he was the writer, the artist, the inker, the letterer, everything. And something cool that David Mack brings to the book is he utilizes different mediums of art to showcase different emotions within the characters. And he also integrates the written word into the artwork. So typically you would have the art, and then you would have a bubble. And inside the bubble would be either a monologue or spoken word. And something cool that Mack does is he integrates the words into the art, and they're very easy to miss. And I've read this several times now, but I was still able to pick out different things than the last time that I read through this. But Parts of a Whole it's obviously a Daredevil story, but it's a Kingpin story. So if the goal of Guardian Devil by Smith, Quesada, and Palmiotti was to get Daredevil back to basics, to move him back to a point, that Foggy and Matt were in a partnership together. They were both single. Less people knew Daredevil's secret identity. This story is to get Kingpin back to where he was. So Kingpin had sporadically shown up in comics after Last Rites, which was Daredevil issue 300, which happened in like 91. But basically Last Rites, or Fall of the Kingpin, however you want to call it, was to Kingpin what Born Again was to Matt. And it was Matt systematically destroying the Kingpin's empire. And Kingpin really never recovered from that. And now we are getting a little bit of that, of him getting back to being the actual Kingpin, not just in name, but in station, in power, in authority. And the overall story of Parts of a Whole kind of explores a grieving Matt, still gripping with the fallout of Karen Page's death, and where this new character of Maya Lopez fits into his world. And we slowly find out that Maya is being manipulated by Kingpin to basically be a thorn in Matt's side, and distract him from the court case that Foggy is running and trying to convict Fisk of his various crimes. It is a wonderful story. I think Maya Lopez is a horrendously underutilized character. I love her character. Yes, she's just a female Taskmaster, and I do not care. She's a Native American character. She has a very unique power set. Her personality is fantastic. Her backstory is so interesting. And it's a David Mack creation. And he created this character, and by the end of the storyline, he kind of pulls a Frank Miller and kind of shoos his creation away. And he'll return to it. A little bit of a spoiler, but he'll return to it later. The This story arc of the three is really the only one that I can tell you has long-lasting impact for the later volume. So, slight spoiler to the story. I'm assuming that if you've gotten this far, you've read it. But slight spoiler: the story ends with Kingpin becoming blind, and that is a major plot point that will continue for the next couple years worth of Daredevil Volume 2. Foggy gets some great moments in this comic. I think this is the most screen time that Foggy has had in Daredevil comics in years. We get to see him be a fantastic lawyer. We get some more appearances of Black Widow. She continues to try to see what her role is in Daredevil's life. I go in more depth on this on the website in the article, but I think that this era is very fun because they pull a Batman and they say that there is a clear distinction between Matt Murdock's interests, whether it be in career or women, and Daredevil's interests in women. And it's great. I mean, it's a really cool way of approaching it. Karen meant a lot to both Matt and Daredevil. So much so that Matt told her that he was Daredevil. And yeah, I mean, I love David Mack. I think the storyline is substantially better than Guardian Devil. I wish this was the start of Volume 2 because I think it sets everything up fantastically. But all that being said, my rating for Parts of a Whole is an A. Still no S's, but it's definitely an A. So I'll post right about here the current tier list so you can see it. And then for next week, kind of a weirder week. We're taking a break from Daredevil. So last 2 weeks we've had a Daredevil story in each of them, and a Black Panther story in each of them. But next week we're just going to do Black Panther Enemy of the State, which is issues 8 through 12. Technically speaking, 8 is not part of Enemy of the State, but it just made way more sense to include it with next week's reading than this week's reading. And then the next several issues of Heroes for Hire. So Heroes for Hire, because it is a very 90s comic, they don't really do overarching storylines. So we're going to do issues 5 through 11, which is the storylines Broken Bonds, the Thunderbolts take over, which I'm very excited about. I love the Thunderbolts. Revelations, Conflict of Interest, Misalliances, which is the issues that include Deadpool. And it's, like I said, it's 5 through 11. And then we'll reconvene the following week, and I believe that we can fit some Daredevil into there. So thank you all for watching. I hope that you guys are inspired to read along. This week was much less divisive, I hope. Even spread A, B, and C. And really, even my C ranking isn't bad. It's generic. But I look forward to seeing what goes on in Heroes for Hire and what happens with Luke Cage. And I am excited to get through this final story arc of Black Panther with, I hesitate to call them guest artists because they weren't guest artists, but starting in issue 13 of Black Panther, we get the long-running artist. So let's get through there, and then we can really see what Christopher Priest has for the character. So, all right, thank you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed.